be gentleman at all. I no 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 be gentleman at all at all.
I no be gentleman at all.
I be African man, original.
I no be gentleman at all.
I be African man, original.
I no be gentleman at all.
Them call you, make you can chop. You chop small. You say you belly full. You say you be gentleman. You go hungry. You go suffer. You go quench. Me, I no be gentleman like that.
I no be gentleman at all.
I be African man, original.
I no be gentleman at all.
I be African man, original.
I no be gentleman at all.
I be African man, original.
I no be gentleman at all.
You did go your way, the Jaja way. Somebody come bring original trouble. You no talk, you no act. You say you be gentleman. You go suffer, you go tire, you go quench. Me, I no be gentleman like that.
I no be gentleman at all.
I be African man, original.
I no be gentleman at all.
I be African man, original.
I no be gentleman at all.
Africa hot, I like her, I'm so. I know what to who we are, but my friends don't know. You put him socks, you put him shoe, you put him pant, you put him singlet, you put him trouser, you put him shirt, you put him tie, you put him coat. He come cover all within heart. He be gentleman. He go sweat all over. He go faint right down. He go smell like.
I like that song, but they use the word singlet for a piece of clothing, and there's something disturbing about the concept of a singlet. I don't know why, but there is. That's a universal truth. Hello, ya R users, pirate R users. My name is John Kulas. I'm a 20-year professor of industrial and organizational psychology, 12-year user of R for normal, boring, statistical, and analytical applications, but for the majority of the time I've been using R, I've also been staying within that R scripting environment to execute whatever it is that I'm using R for in the first place. So I never do analyses just for analyses. There's always a report that they go in, or a paper that they go in, or there's some kind of context that you need to use to describe those analyses. And I do all of the context writing and specification within the same environment that I do my R script. So I hang out here every week. Increasingly, it's just me. I'm gonna go to a conference. Kind of ironically, we're talking about conference posters tonight, but I'm gonna be going to a conference at the end of the month, and we'll see if I can light a fire under some of my compatriots' collective rear ends here, and see if I can get them to start joining me on these weekly sessions. But I'm here to promote this way of structuring your work, such that if you're using R anyway, just stay within your scripting environment to write your papers, to do your slides, to construct your reports, a feedback report, a technical report, a conference poster. Don't go to PowerPoint. No. Don't go to some template that you found online. Do it in R, and that's what we're going to do tonight, and that's what we do every week. So every week I'm here from roughly 7 to 8. We'll see. 8 o'clock tonight is maybe the apocalypse. So if that happens, congratulations. How would you rather spend your time an hour prior to the apocalypse other than using R to create papers and posters and things like that? That's how I want to go out, I think. So I don't know. Maybe it'll happen. It might happen tonight. But I generally hang out for about an hour. Um, and we use this metaphor of an academic office hour. So when I was a professor, my office hours were very, very unpopular. I got very, very few students come by to say hi or to talk or to ask to help me solve problems with them. It's either because I was so just brilliantly lucid and clear in lecture that they didn't need it, or more likely, I don't know, they just didn't think I was going to be helpful. But I'm going to be helpful to you. Don't let me dissuade you. I will be helpful to you. So I'm here for about an hour. If someone has a question, if you're interested in using these sorts of procedures and techniques that we talk about on a weekly basis, so not going to Word, not going to PowerPoint, not going to whatever your crafting software platform of kind of tradition is, do it all within your scripting environment. Now we've been using primarily RStudio, but we have explored quite a few other platforms. We've used Positron, the kind of next generation RStudio. We've used JupyterLab. I kind of like JupyterLab. Now JupyterLab violates some of the fundamental tenets and principles that are important for what we're doing with this plain text scripting and adhering to these reproducible research standards. The notebook environment is intended to be a little more interactive, but it doesn't need to be, and it's just fun. I like JupyterLab. Maybe one of these weeks coming up, we'll do another JupyterLab session because I enjoy it. I enjoy it when I'm in that environment. But that being said, so we're here to promote this way of structuring work. And really what I want to do is I want to be here if someone does have any sort of questions or interest to fulfill, to be able to interact with you in a kind of a live setting. Now, in the absence of that, we've been taking a look at capabilities and focused capabilities and just kind of taking them, deconstructing them and looking at them on a more elemental basis, I suppose. And so tonight we're going to, I'm excited for tonight because it's a very practical and I think topical in terms of the time of year. We'll check out conference posters and we'll look at a few different ways to generate conference posters from RStudio. And it doesn't need to be RStudio, but that's what I'm assuming most of you are using, and that's what I'll be using tonight. Now, there are enough popular ways to do this that this is definitely going to extend it to a second week, and that's why I put the parenthesis there with the Roman one. So it's an I guess. It's supposed to be an I, so that's a Roman one. It's supposed to be a Roman one. I don't know. It's not looking very Roman to me. Maybe it's a Greek one. But because we do this in an exploratory manner, each week we do a recap of what happened the previous week, and so that's intended to be presented in a way that's a little more easily digestible for learning and retention and kind of reinforcement of the topics covered and the things that lessons learned, I guess you can say. Now, before we get to last week's recap, let me again say that the slides that you're looking at are in the comments to this video. They are also in the description of the video on YouTube. I'm trying to stream to X tonight. I'm not sure if that's working or not. I'll check it. I'll check it after we're done, I suppose, and see if that's actually working. But the way to find the hyperlinks to everything I have is through YouTube. That's kind of the main. That's the main platform that I'm intending to stream to, and that's where I'm hoping to find the most people that might find this useful. And it's also the platform that you need to use right now in order to interact with me in terms of comments and chat. And I'll try to keep an eye on that. But so there's a link to the slides in the comments. It's also in the description to the video on YouTube. And then there's also a link there for a tutorial that will walk you through how to build kind of some of these products, or how to build a product that is kind of an entryway into more products. And so the product that the tutorial walks through and helps you build is a report. It's a technical report, and it's a technical report for something specific to me, but what it's a technical report of is inconsequential. You can swap out whatever you're interested, fit it in there, and the formatting and the content and the structure, not the content, but the formatting and the structure remains kind of universally applicable. All right, so that's enough tiptoeing, tap dancing, toe tapping. I think that's enough toe tapping from yours truly. Let's get into what actually did happen last week.
Let's face it, claiming an inheritance in England isn't very easy, especially if your name happens to be Bullwinkle Moose. Yes, those words ruled Britannia on the bottom of his foot, entitled our Moose to inherit a £1,000,000 note. But there was a stumbling block. 3 stumbling blocks named Filcher Crankcase, Belcher Crankcase, and Jay, nephews to the recently departed Earl.
We must find a ruse for cooking his goose.
So saying, they drove to the White Cliffs of Dover, intending to push our heroes over.
What'd everybody do, get rhyming dictionaries for Christmas?
Luckily, the cab was no pushover, and in the ensuing mix-up, it was the nephews who took the plunge, not Rocky and Bullwinkle. Later at the law firm of Lamb, Curry, and Rice...
Is it true, Mr. Lamb? Is Bullwinkle really the new Earl?
No doubt of it, my boy. That tattoo on his foot matches the one in this picture.
Unfortunately, before the new Earl could collect the £1,000,000 note, he had to spend 1 week inside Abominable Manor.
You know, they say one of the reasons that, what's his name? Deadpool is so popular in the Marvel universe with, first of all, from the comics, but then going on to films, is because he breaks the fourth wall, that kind of theater concept of the audience, right? You're not supposed to do that if you're in a play plays, they do it all the time. So they have asides and they talk to the audience. But you're not supposed to do it in film. You break the illusion, right? The suspension of disbelief, and it becomes less suspended when that happens. But it strikes me now. I don't know why, but it just hit me right now that maybe Bullwinkle was the first kind of cartoon character to use that fourth wall breaking, because this is the second week in a row that he's actually kind of picked up on what the narrator is saying and made a comment about it. I don't know. That Bullwinkle, he's smarter than people give him credit for, I think. Well, I don't know about that, but he's entertaining anyway. So last week, what we focused on were ways to animate your text. And the first tab that you're looking at here in terms of possible animations are animations that are built into Quarto. Quarto is the software that Posit has developed and is supporting. And so Posit is the company that created R Studio. Posit, the company, used to be called R Studio. They rebranded, as I believe that their intent is to kind of move away from exclusive association with R, the programming language. They seem to want to be more language agnostic, and we spoke of Jupyter Lab earlier, and certainly that's something that Jupyter Lab does and does well. Positron does, VS Code does, and our Posit, the company, is certainly moving toward that as well. So Quarto is kind of the next generation, the current generation of R Markdown. And R Markdown was an ecosystem. It was a series of packages that collectively facilitated the creation of all kinds of products, the types of products that we talk about on a weekly basis. Quarto is kind of a one-stop shop. So with R Markdown, you needed a different package if you're doing a website versus a conference poster versus a set of slides. Quarto is a one-stop shop, and regardless of what it is that you're interested in producing, you can use Quarto. Now, Quarto also operates a little differently. Quarto is an independent piece of software that resides on your local computer. So it's not a package. R Markdown was a system of packages. R Markdown was a package itself, but the R Markdown capabilities were implemented through the more traditional package route. So like ggplot is a package. It's not a Markdown package. It's a package that facilitates graphical visuals. Tidyverse is a very popular package that helps with data manipulations and other things, obviously. But Quarto is different. It's a piece of software, and R recognizes it, and R Studio recognizes it. And one of the product types that you can make with Quarto are these slides, and you're looking at one of them right now. So that what you're looking at is called a Reveal.js slide, and that Reveal.js slide was authored via Quarto. And so Quarto is the software that does this. And so there are built-in animations that Posit has specifically for these Reveal.js slides. And there's more than what I'm presenting here, but what I really focused on were what are called fragments. And so there's a hyperlink here if you want to follow it that will take you to some of the capabilities that Quarto has built in terms of I think I went to the wrong, that's a bad hyperlink, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to scroll down a little bit on the page. So you're gonna have to look for the fragments section. I don't know what I did there. It looks like there might be actually, you know what I did? It looks like I put a trailing, double quote in on my URL. Bad Kulas. So Kulas made a mistake there. So it's the right page that you're taken to, but it's not the right section of that page. So you'll have to scroll down a little bit if you want to read a little bit more about fragments. But what fragments do is I have 7 of them embedded on this slide here. So as I advance through the slides, you'll start to see the animation take effect. And it's going to take effect one by one because that's how I structured it. But first of all, take a look at this dot fade out in the upper left section of the bottom text. And so as I scroll down, you're going to see that fade out. So fading in, fading out. That's an animation that's built in on Quarto. And again, it's intended to be, it's a capability that is operative only with this product type, with these Reveal.js slides. So fade out, you can strike, which is a line through. You can highlight in, I think it's red, green, and blue are the built-in colors that you can use. You can fade in, like we faded out, but there's different kind of degrees of fading in and fading out. So this one is actually going to, when I progress again, it's going to not disappear, but it's going to semi-disappear. So it's going to be a little bit ghosted. And I use this a lot. When we get to tonight's topic, you'll see that I use it on tonight's topic as well. Now, these two I probably should have set up sequentially instead of happening concurrently or concurrently. But what we just saw happen there was we got our semi fade out on the lower left, and then we also got, and I wanted to show, and last week we did stack some of these. So within Quarto you can stack or apply multiple animations to the same content. And so this is doing 2 things. It's highlighting, just like highlight green, it's highlighting red, but it's also shrinking. Now, just like semi fade out, you can also have semi color accents. And so the current is just saying, well, give it red until you move on, and then when you move on, get rid of the red. And so that's kind of that's another neat capability. And so the last kind of thing to highlight here, or the last little bit of animation that I stole and applied here just for these Reveal.js slides, was another stacking, which is another 2 different animations put together applied to the same content. And that's to highlight and grow. So I can highlight and shrink, I can highlight and grow. So these are neat. These are very cool, I think. And so it's nice that they're there just as built-in options for Quarto. But there's also an extension, and that extension gives us additional capability in terms of animations. And so the extension, there's a hyperlink here to what we used, which is called Quarto Animate. In Quarto Animate, we've talked over the weeks of how to use these extensions. You want to be in a project directory from RStudio. You want to actually create a new project is how you want to engage with any extension, not just this one, but any extension. And there's so many different things you can do. So I have 9 of them here just because they're kind of 9 neat ones. But here's a listing of all the animation effects that you can apply to HTML products. So it's not only Reveal.js slides, but you could do this in a report if you really want to annoy your coworkers or your boss. I don't recommend annoying your boss. unless you have like a very short-term perspective and plan to exit, then go ahead and annoy your boss, and that maybe is fun. I've annoyed pretty much every boss I've ever had. I think I've been told I have an oppositional attitude toward authority, and I think that's probably true. But it's not good when that comes from your boss. But I don't know if I could have another job other than professor, because being a professor, well, I haven't been, well, I had been told that by an academic advisor actually, but being a professor, if you have this kind of oppositional authority attitude, it doesn't really matter. So, but there are consequences if you have a normal job. And so, uh, anyway, don't be oppositional to your boss. Don't embed these nice animations in an email to your boss unless you have a good working relationship with your boss. Anyway, side we're on a sidetrack here, but there are these. This is a listing of the capabilities that are currently listed in this particular extension, and they're neat. They're pretty cool. I liked last week. I think my favorite was Jello. I don't know. I just kind of like the way it wobbles, kind of using the X and Y dimensions collectively, and just I kind of like it. And there are modifications you can apply within the within the extension itself in terms of the duration of this, whether the effects repeat or not, how many times they repeat. I currently have it set on infinity, so this will keep. If today is the apocalypse, this will keep going even after the apocalypse. The uh, the cockroaches will just be sitting here watching YouTube or maybe X if we're broadcasting to X, and having a fun time with the animations that we have here on our text. There are there's a delay. So delay was something that I did not that delay was not seemingly always 100% if operating in the way that I thought it was going to operate. So we would have to probably play with this extension a little more in terms of, and do some testing too on just different browsers. So if someone's using Firefox versus Chrome versus Edge, there's the people whose jobs and interests involve web development for years and years and years. They've talked about differences across browsers. I'm only now at this point in my career, I guess close to, I don't know, 25, 30 years into my professional career, I'm only now kind of starting to gain an appreciation for, or an acknowledgement and an understanding that yes, different browsers might have different interpretations of what you're trying to do. So it's possible that some of the things I wanted to do were browser specific, but it's a really neat extension. I'm glad we chucked. I'm glad we checked it out and took a look at it. And it is, you got to be careful with these because there is so much neat stuff that you can do that there's just psychologically there's a desire to do it. So you kind of look for reasons to use it when in reality you probably shouldn't be using it that often. But it's out there and it's neat. And if you want to, certainly if we keep doing holiday cards, so on this channel we've done Christmas. I'm Christian, so it was Christmas card for me. It could be a Hanukkah card. It could be whatever the kind of Christmassy Noel season, whatever sentiment it is that you want to convey. We've generated those. We did a Valentine's Day card. Certainly in those sorts of contexts, I can see this kind of thing being something that I think if we do it again next year, we'll probably try to include this. So the funny, whimsical, not funny, but the fun, the whimsical, the less serious applications that you have, that's probably where this is something that you might want to consider. And I'm going to keep it in the back of my mind, and I'm going to come back to this at some point. I know I will be using this. I just, my personality, I have to restrain myself a little bit. And so I have to tell myself that even though it's a capability, it's not something that you need to be doing all the time or should be doing all the time. Okay, so that was text animations. That was fun. Today and next week as well. Again, my priority on these weekly sessions is helping people and interacting with people who are interested in doing this. So if someone pops by and has a question, that's always going to take precedent, and that means that the topic might get pushed a little bit. But even absent that, I know that there's enough content here where we're going to be pushing tonight's topic into at least next week. This is a very busy slide. So first off, apologies for the busyness, but we're going to take this very slowly. I decided to err on the side of too much information here just because if people do use my slides as a resource, I want them to have access to some of these options that they may want to check out or may want to consider. So first of all, what's a poster? I have a hyperlink on the title to that slide that kind of gives an overview of what a poster is, what the tradition is, why we do them. It's a element of professional conferences. The professional conferences often have an academic bent to them. They're often associated with a discipline, an academic discipline. They can be associated with professional associations as well. My field is an applied field of psychology, so our annual conference is kind of a mismatch. Mix-mash? It's a mashup of professional and academic, people from professional and academic backgrounds. Now, one of the things we do at these conferences is you share information that you have relative to whatever the reason is that you're there together. So relative to your shared interest. And so one of the ways in which you communicate that information is traditionally through a poster. There are symposia, there are lectures, there are roundtables, there's talks. There's all kind at these conferences that are focused on academic and professional advancement. There's all kinds of ways to disseminate information. Just posters being kind of one way. And posters in my mind as a longtime professor, this is a great way for students to get involved with research and to start kind of engaging in the back end of research. The front end of research is coming up with a problem and designing a way to evaluate questions that you have, and then applying statistics to test whether your assumptions and predictions look like they may be valid or not. The back end is the dissemination of information. The back end is important, but the back end is very, very, on many levels, less fun than the front end. So this is one way to get students involved in that back end activity, which is, it's a very kind of low pressure way to communicate the results, or to communicate and disseminate information that you've discovered through your individual research. And posters, there's some schematics here in terms of what posters are expected to look like. 20 years ago, they all kind of looked the same. Increasingly, there's a little more diversity in terms of what these things look like. I do have some links here to posters that I've developed, and they're posters that I've developed that me and my collaborators have developed. So it's not just me, but people that I've collaborated with have put together. And we developed these using a R package called Posterdown. Now, over the course of the next 2 weeks, we're going to cover 2 different strategies, I think, to develop these types of posters. One is using the old R Markdown system. That's the left-hand options. And the other is using the new Quarto kind of approach, and that's the right-hand options. Tonight, and there's, you see the semi-fade out there. So tonight we're going to focus on the R Markdown options. Now, there are, boy, I don't even know where to go with this, but there are so many different ways that you can approach this. There are so many different kind of roads you can go down to develop posters. I'm going to focus, I think, tonight probably on 2 of them. And those 2 of them are somewhat related. So those 2 of them are relying on a package called Pagedown. And so Pagedown is a package that takes HTML products and it presents them or enables the specification of them in a paged format. So if you look at a web page, web pages don't, even though they're called web pages, they don't have page breaks. It's a long, continuous, unending, um, not unending, but it's a long, continuous, undifferentiated block of information. Each web page is distinct, but the web pages themselves don't have typesetting and pagination like we're used to seeing in documents, in hard copy documents, in PDFs, and in Word documents. Page down is intended to take HTML product types and to introduce pages in them. So using page down, you can create things like books, reports. You can create things like theses and dissertations. You can create things like a research article, a copy edited research article. You can create resumes. I think on here you can create posters. We'll come back to that. Two different poster types here that we see. And the reason we're going to take a look at this is this one in particular is kind of, it's got some fun elements to it. It's got some color on it. It's got some uniqueness to it. So I think we'll check that out. This one looks more standard. So this is what you historically saw when you walked around at a conference and were looking at the research that other people did, and they're disseminating it, communicating it through a poster. Business cards. This is what I was thinking about. I actually used page down to make business cards for myself. So my business cards look not too dissimilar from this one actually. Letters, so there's all kinds of stuff you can do using page down. Now we're going to use that page down capability, and we are going to create posters whose parameters have been kind of predefined by either the page down authors, which is this second capability block here, Poster Relaxed and Poster Jacobs, or have been defined a little bit differently. And so a little bit differently, both of these approaches have some advantages and disadvantages, and we'll talk about them. There are some other options here that I know we won't get to tonight. If there's enough interest in this topic, we can talk about them next week, but I consider these to be kind of probably less popular approaches to creating conference posters. However, you still could. So Post R is another alternative. It's a package, but it's a package that has not been it's not been touched for 8 years, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that just means that there might be a little more difficulty in terms of problem solving on something like this, and the documentation is quite sparse. Now, I knew we were going to talk about posters tonight, so I did go ahead and generate one of these using Poster, and it works, it's fine, but I don't know that we want to spend too much time on it. And then there is a tradition of creating posters using LaTeX, and LaTeX is a typesetting language. It's a macro typesetting language that is used to control how PDFs look, how your margins look, how your font looks, how your number of columns, where things go. LaTeX, however, is kind of notoriously picky and tricky and gets a little unwieldy. And so this is where page down really becomes kind of attractive. Is page down it gives you the possibility of specifying how you want things to look using a more comfortable HTML and CSS approach. So CSS is the language used to control kind of how things look within HTML pages. And so we can generate a poster using LaTeX, but we can also kind of rely on the good work that's been done by people who have been working on page down and have been relying on page down to take HTML specified products and render that into a PDF. Now, why does it matter? The reason it matters with posters is at some point these need to transition from your computer to someone that's going to print this off for you. And one thing that I should mention about posters is that these are large. So traditionally, these are large. People walk around these conferences and they want to see them. So the font is quite large. The pictures are quite large. These are usually pinned up on a 4x8 board. And so they need to be large just not to look silly in terms of taking up that space. The people I haven't seen this for years now, but when I first started going to conferences in probably the late 90s, so this is, my goodness, it's a long time ago. But the people that put in minimal effort for conference posters at that time, what they would do is they would print off 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper and just tack them up individually on a board like this. And these were always the people who put in the least amount of effort, which is probably the people you want to go talk to and hang out with at the conference because they're probably going to be the most fun. I don't know, maybe not. But that's not something that I've seen for quite some number of years. But you need to actually have your information presented in a large format. So because of that, we're engaging with second parties, third parties. We're engaging with people that are going to be able to take our specification of information and print it in a very large format. They always want PDFs. So the people that are printing these things, these posters, they don't want HTML files. They always want PDF files. So that's the context. That's the background of why we're spending some time talking about things like page down and LaTeX specifications and bypassing LaTeX specifications. Okay, so the poster down approach is kind of a newer, well, I would say it's newer, but this repo also has not been worked on for 6 years. But I'm less concerned about this because I use it every year and it works just fine. The poster down approach is probably a little more advanced than the straight page down approach, but we're gonna cover them both. And if we don't get through both of them tonight, this is something that I will definitely roll over to next week. The poster down packages, the poster down package by default specifies 3 different types of posters. And so the first one looks like this. Now you can see this is in its HTML form because there are some neat R capabilities here. It looks like it's probably Plotly, but there's a Plotly object here that's embedded as a GIF, and that's really, really neat. I know I've seen that before. I think that's Plotly with another package probably to facilitate the or to transition it to a GIF. So that's kind of the traditional format. That's what you expect to see in posters. This is an alternative, just kind of cool looking. It's got a big middle section that kind of, it can be a splash page kind of for your poster. And again, over the course of years, these are getting a little more creative in terms of what they look like. I've seen now this particular format several times at my conference, and I always walk around and I go, "Hey, you use Posterdown!" And I've never had the person who's standing there representing it have a not just terrified look on their face when I do that. I'm probably too excited, but no one has ever said, "Yeah, I'm using it." It's always reserved and like, "You're a freak. Yes, we used it. Why are you so excited?" But I do get excited. The third kind of default format here is a bit of a hybrid, I would say. There's a larger header, there's a larger footer, and then information in the middle. I like this one as well. I don't think I have any posters that use this specific format, but you can alter these as well. So on this week's slides, there is a hyperlink on the little guy with a poster here and the little guy with a poster up here. So there's hyperlinks to both of those to posters that I've done in the past. And so this was a poster done with one of my favorite students of all time, Renata, and another favorite student of mine, Alicia. Alicia's probably watching, but Alicia was also a student of mine at one point in time. And she's now a professor, and Renata is now a practitioner. But we put together a poster, and you can see we used one of the specifications there from the Posterdown package, but we changed some stuff. So we changed the color. Instead of a big splash page in the middle, we put a visual. So we thought a visual would look nice there. And then we put some kind of, university specific images here, there. So that was a neat one. I thought I liked that poster. There's another one that I think uses probably the same. I think we use the same, yeah, big middle splash page here. So on this one, we again kind of retained the customization that we did on the other one, which was I don't really want text in the middle there. What I want is I want a big visual that represents kind of the basis of our study or our research, what we did. When I do posters, I like to have as many visuals as possible because when I look at them, I prefer visuals. It just makes it more interesting, I think, to look at. Okay, so let's look at Posterdown and let's create a poster using Posterdown, and then let's rely on the page down capability to see if we can transition the Posterdown specified thing into a PDF document that we can share with someone like a printer who can print it off for us and make a physical representation of what we actually have. Okay, I guess there's one more. As long as we're going into R, I can show you the one that we did this year, because the one that we did this year is a little more traditional. And this one also, I think Alicia is, I think, the lead author on this one this year. But we just finished this one up fairly recently. And there it is. So this is kind of a more traditional looking one, and we had to use the more traditional one because we had incentive to do that. And our incentive was the printing of this particular poster was going to be done by the university that is called out here, as long as we represented that university exactly the way they wanted to, which means they had this blue color on the banner here on the left, and then this kind of slash line transitioning to a darker blue, and then the logo of the university had to be exactly represented. So this one actually took a little AI back and forth in order to get this the way that we actually wanted it, but it turned out great. And so it was also done through that Posterdown package. So those are the types of things that we can create using Posterdown. Sorry, I'm usually playing music as we're doing this, but I know that my audio sometimes gets choppy, so I tried something different. So I have a Bluetooth speaker here. I was listening to audio through my Bluetooth speaker that my little nephew gave me for a Christmas present, and so I don't use it that often, but I'm starting to use it more often. And it just quit on me, but it made like a I'm dying quitting sound, and it scared the crap out of me. Okay, so we're gonna use our Zotero. No, let's not do that. I'm gonna create a new project. I have so many projects going on here. So I'm going to create a new project, and I think there might be a template actually that we can follow, but we'll double check that in a second. So I'm going to call it poster. I'll be just off my C root directory. So my C root directory, then I have a Kulas folder, and it's in a poster, and it's completely empty, so there's nothing in there right now. Let's see if there is a template for Posterdown. Now, one thing I do want to mention before we get into it is Posterdown was on Crayon, but it hasn't been updated. So if you want to use the Crayon version of Posterdown, you're going to have to go into the Crayon archive. And so you can retrieve old packages within the Crayon archive. You can also access them through GitHub. And so the GitHub repository remains up and accessible even if it's not active. And so that's how we're going to actually interact with Posterdown. So off of the GitHub repository, there is some instructions here, and so you can try to install it from CRAN, but that's again probably not going to work because this information is a bit out of date. Posterdown was on CRAN, but it since it hasn't been updated, CRAN said no more soup for you and essentially kicked it off. But you can install Posterdown using this GitHub installation. So as long as you have the package remotes, you can also use the package pack, or you can use the package, what's the other popular one? Remotes. DevTools. DevTools is the other popular one. There's a few different ways to do the same thing, but you can get any R package in its development form if you want by using this install_GitHub function that's in several different packages. And then you just name the repository. You name the repository owner, and then after the slash, you name the repository itself that is on GitHub, and it'll grab everything necessary. If you look in the repository itself, these folders are fairly standard in terms of package information. The content that we really want is in this R folder, and that's specifying the functions necessary to facilitate the capability that we're interested in. So we can go ahead and install that package. I already have it installed, so I'm not gonna continue with that. And we'll just verify that I have it installed. So I'll look in my packages for Posterdown. There it is, version 1.0. So I think that's the only version available probably out there. Unless you got in really early and have an early package and never updated it. So we'll go to new file, R Markdown, and we'll see if there's actually a Posterdown template. I'm not sure. I used to have so many different packages in here. I don't use R Markdown as much, so I don't have quite as many packages that come in. But if you do install Posterdown from GitHub, you're going to see 3 different template options, and so this is a very easy way to access kind of a starting point. So let's go ahead and use BetterLand. We'll do all 3 of them actually. So I'm gonna since we have an empty repository here, empty project folder. Sorry, I'm gonna go ahead and open all 3 of them using the same from template process. So this, what did we do? I think we did BetterLand first. Here's HTML, and because we have something open, probably we'll call it basic. And then let's do the 3rd one as well, so we can take a look at all 3 of them, and then we'll do a little we'll see if we can modify, and then we'll definitely see if we can print these off as PDFs, because that's kind of the most important part. So then we have better port as another option. And you can see that post R that I mentioned, that wasn't in here a week ago, but I did go in and access it just to see what the capabilities were like and what that package was like. And like I said, unless there's a request for it, we probably won't get to it tonight. But if people are interested, we could take a look at it next week. I don't know if we want to do 2 or 3 weeks of this on conference posters. This could be a whole month on conference posters, honestly. So let's go ahead and run the basic one first. I'm just going to knit it and see if we get any sort of errors. Really miss my music. And it spun up right away, so that was nice. And it doesn't look all that, it doesn't look all that interesting, honestly. But there's more content that you can put in here. If we just look at this conclusion section here, if we just started to fill that in, if I scroll through the script file here and find, or I use my outline tab, I can go to, what did we call it? Or what did I call it? Conclusion. I'm looking for a section called conclusion. So it should be after results. Where is the conclusion section? Objectives. Am I in the wrong? Oh, I'm in the wrong. Sorry, I was in the wrong script. That makes more sense. So conclusion, there it is. We can do lorem ipsum, lorem ipsum. Does anyone know what that means, by the way? I don't know what it means. I just know it's a very kind of the programmer-ish way to add content. And it's silly, but if we look at the new poster, just putting more content in, we'll see that those columns start to populate a little bit. And so I'm getting more information in here. You can increase the size of these graphs. We can put in a different visual if we wanted to. Let's look for our favorite Palmer penguins. And let's see if we can find something that looks nice. Put it in there with some colors. All I'm thinking about is colors. I don't know why I'm so picky with these things, but I kind of am. So we'll see if there's some script here that we can steal. Where are we? Data science. I don't know that this is the site we want to be on. Boy, there's a lot in here. They're doing too much. So this site is actually explaining kind of how to deal with data. That's nice, but I don't really care about dealing with data at this point. I just want to steal a little code that works for us. Okay. This actually looks pretty much, you know, it's funny sometimes. Sometimes these different sites are actually using the same code. Where the heck is the ggplot example? Come on, people. If this doesn't, I mean, I don't want to spend a ton of time here. If we can't find code real quick, I'm probably just gonna do an empty cars or something here. Man, what are you doing? This is not how I would do this, but we'll just go ahead and put it in regardless. We don't need to replace anything. Where do we have the most space? I have the most space under my conclusions, so I'm just going to put it there. So I'm going to add a chunk. And you can see the script itself is kind of interjected. It's interjected with writing versus code. Now, using the old R Markdown ecosystem, we're going to want to make sure that we only get kind of the output. Not that interested in seeing feedback from our chunk here. So I'm going to put echo warning and message set to false. We should also be able to do that in the YAML, but I'm not sure if that's done or not. It looks like it's not being done in the YAML, so we'll have to do it on the chunk by chunk basis. And then I just want to look and see what other scripting I might need here. It looks like I just need Palmer penguins and ggplot. So we'll add those to this chunk. And sometimes what I'll do, especially if we've set warning and message to false, is you can run these chunks independently by using the play button here, and it should give you a visual it should give you a preview of what you expect to see. So we can go ahead and knit that, and we should get a nice visual in our conclusion section. We can also hyperlink to that. Now, that's good for electronic versions of what we have, but it's not all that useful when we actually transition from an HTML representation to a PDF. Now we could play with the height and the width of that certainly, and that would well, let's do that real quick and see if we can get it. I think if I remember, it's fig. Let's try fig align. Let's see if we can get that center justified. Let's see if it works. right now it's kind of more aligned with the left-hand column than the right-hand column. And there we go. So that's a very easy fix. We can also do we should be able to do figure height, figure width. Right now I'm just going to do fig dot. Should be a width in here. Now sometimes height and width don't work the same. And these values that they take are also going to be specific to the size of the container that we're dealing with. So what I normally would set at size 10 might not have the effect that I want in this particular rendering, but it did. It stretched it out quite a bit. We'd probably want to raise that a little bit too, and you start to see how you're kind of building content to fill the size of the containers here. Just one last real quick thing. Let's do fig height. We'll set that maybe to 8. We'll have an 8 by 10 image, and we can go back and change that all we want. But really what I'm interested in is two things that I want to hit before we drop tonight in terms of Posterdown. It's a nice image there, I think. It's better than it was. It's center justified. It's quite a bit higher. And if someone's popping by and they say, hey, tell me about your poster and tell me about these penguins. What is a flipper length? What is a bill length? Then you can say, heretic, get out of here. You don't know about penguins. And then you get kicked out of the academic conference. Don't listen to Kulas. Okay, so there's a little bit of overplotting that we're seeing here too. So that's something that is easy enough to rectify, easy enough to play with. And we can do that through CSS. Now, one of the things I do want to hit are some of these YAML options. So first of all, let's go ahead and we'll take off the second author and we'll say it's just Brent. Brent is the author of the Posterdown package. And I think he actually was working on this when he was a graduate student, if my recollection is right. You can specify a number of columns. The standard is 3. 3 seems to work fairly well. Sometimes you'll see this kind of extra white space in your HTML representation that usually goes away once we transition to a PDF. But it might not be something that you like to see. The logo, it's actually taking the logos from a URL. So you can have locally loaded images, or you can have a URL. So let's put an image in and see if we can do that. So let's look for a Pink Panther. Or no, let's look for Chili Willy. And I'll try to get a transparent background. These are sometimes difficult to identify. And this one looks like it's probably transparent. Now there's a little Unicode here. So the package author is saying that this probably isn't going to be, it's probably not going to like it if you have colons in your specification, so please don't use colons. So we're not going to use colons. We're just going to see if we can get Chili Willy in there. And he should be rendered on the right image if this works. Now it might be too big for the container, it might be too small for the container, it might not actually be able to access that like we thought it would. But that actually came through fine. So there's Chili. Again, there's a little overplotting, so his feet are getting a little cut off. So we'd probably want to play with that a little bit, and we would maybe change the size of that image itself, but it comes through fine. We can also play with things like colors, and I know there's some color specification. I'm going to, instead of going straight to the package, I'm gonna go to Grok. And so one of the reasons I think we might be streaming tonight is because I actually updated my X subscription to a premium subscription, because Grok has been so incredibly fantastic with helping me with some of my scripting. And just on this last problem I did, Grok actually outdid Claude and ChatGPT as engines through GitHub Copilot. And so I I could not believe I could not believe the struggles I was having with those two engines, and I can't believe I gave up. They actually said at the end, they said you can't do this. That was ChatGPT. So I switched from Claude to GPT because Claude was running me in circles. GPT ended up saying you can't do this. I quit, and then I went to Grok just kind of as a last minute. I'm like, I don't. Grok was not helpful 3 months ago with this kind of stuff, but I don't know. Let's give it a shot. And in 10 minutes, we figured it out and got it. So I went, okay, I'll do your subscription. Um, and there was also a deal, so it was like $4 a month. So, but the long story short, the reason I did that was because I was using Grok so frequently to solve this problem that I actually ran out of Grok prompts. So I needed to go to a higher tier so I could have more back and forth because it was so incredibly helpful. I'd like to change the colors of my Posterdown. Poster. What are the YAML fields for this? Now, I could go to an old specification that I have as well and find what those fields actually are, but I remember it's, yeah, primary and secondary color, I think, is what we want. So let's try all three of those. So I'm going to put those in my YAML, the front matter here, and let's change the color. We'll go to a hex color picker. I use these all the time. And we just want something that's quite a bit different from what we see here currently. Let's go with a color that is good for chili. Chili is going to be chili, so we'll do like a blue, like an ice blue. That looks nice and chilly. That looks like chili will feel right at home. Very kind of Arctic-ish. Where's my hex? My hex is right here. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm just going to put that in as all three for now. We could go in and change this if we wanted. And they should have they should have consequence, for example, what you're seeing here in terms of the highlight of the inline kind of ticks. That should be something we should be able to play with. The hyperlinks, I'm not sure. Certainly these headers that we see that are colored in, it should have a consequence there. And I'm not sure that these are specified at the right heading level. So the level of indentation on these is always important. But we'll just give it a go without. I mean, the worst I can do is say no, I don't like it. So we'll go ahead and try to knit it. Hey, look at that. That looks great, I think. I mean, I like it. Let's change. Let's do a secondary color a little different. We'll just make a darker blue, so kind of like a slate blue. And we'll see what effect that has. Now, currently, what we're seeing here, again, I'm assuming that the secondary is kind of being affected here. You can see, I don't know if it's difficult to see or not, but there are some vertical lines that come in by default, these dotted lines that are separating the columns. So that might be something that's affected as well. It's possible that secondary color is not going to affect very much, but we'll see. So you can start to see how you can play with this, not just the content, but just the formatting of it. And honestly, AI is just fantastic in terms of helping you modify things to a degree that's satisfying for whatever your end purpose is. Whatever you want this to look like, you can make it look like it. So Posterdown, I still use it. I literally was working on a Posterdown poster last week. Yeah, I feel like a graduate student sometimes when I'm doing that. Okay, so secondary and tertiary or whatever the word was. They don't look like they're having a lot of effect in terms of what we have specified. So if we were to put hyperlinks in, if we were to do some other things, I'm guessing that that would show up. I'm not sure if the hyperlinks we have down here, it looks like they are reflecting that. Let's put in just really quickly, because I know we have a few other things we need to do before we quit. I'm going to put in kind of a more visible color just to see if that it's probably accent that is in charge of those hyperlinks, I'm guessing. So this should render as kind of more of a fuchsia. Yeah, and so it's doing the hyperlinks. So that's the accent color. So, I think very quite easy to manipulate and work and get it to represent stuff that you're interested in terms of format. Now, the printer of your poster is not going to accept this. They're not going to like this. You say, I like this. This is a good poster. I like the color. Actually, I don't, right? It would be kind of silly. There's Chili Willy on it. You can't really see much. The color's hiding text. But let's say we love this poster. The printer is not going to love it. So the printer is going to want this in a PDF format. One recommendation you frequently see transitioning from HTML to PDF is, well, just go to your browser and do a print preview and print to PDF. Sorry, I had a cough there. The problem with that is you're going to lose all this nice formatting. So just to show you, I'm in Edge right now. It doesn't matter what I'm in. We're going to lose the same formatting. So if I go print and we try Microsoft Print to PDF, you're going to lose all of that nice color that we have, and you might lose some other formatting as well. So that's not an option. Now, what is an option, and there's a couple of different ways to engage with this. Oh, before we do that, there's one other very important thing that we need to do with our poster. Let's go back to Grok. I always say thanks because I'm terrified that they're going to take over. I don't want to be the first one killed when the AI takes over. Although if there's an apocalypse tonight, I think it's supposed to have happened already 7 minutes ago. I don't know. What do you prefer, a AI apocalypse or a Mideast apocalypse? I don't know what's better. Anyway, I always think I feel like I'm groveling a little bit. I'm like, you're going to be our future overlords. I want you to remember me when we're serving you as slaves or whatever the heck we end up being. Thanks, that's great. I also need dimensions. What are the YAML specs for dimensions? Now, dimensions are really important as we transition to a PDF because the printer is going to want not only a PDF representation of your poster, but they're also going to want it at specific dimensions. And so poster height and poster width is what we actually want. And it will take multiple values for this. So, it's looking like it wants it in kind of a different spot. I would not have put it in this spot, but it looks to me like it wants that. Grok's been so fantastic. I'm going to trust it on this and just say that that's what it wants. I think by tradition, the dimensions are probably 36 by 48. Again, these are really large. These are printed on a very large space, usually a 4 by 8 type board. So 36 by 48, that's 3 feet by 4 feet. I think that's probably fairly standard. And so for our representation, we're going to want this thing blown up. So the aspect ratio is going to, we're going to have to keep an eye on that and see what things look like. But as we specify different dimensions, things are going to get shifted around a little bit. By the way, if you're interested in controlling like where things are here, if I wanted next steps put up on the top of this column here, you can usually effectuate that fairly easily. So I'm going to look for next steps, and I'm just going to put an HTML command for a line break in there. So line break is just BR. Now that may or may not go over to an entire column. We'll see. It may just put an extra space in before next steps. We'll see if it actually does a whole column break. If it doesn't, we would have to play with that a little more, and we might have to look for an HTML command to do a column break instead of a, yeah, just kind of put extra space in. I mean, if you really wanted to hack it, you could do something like this. Probably don't want to do that. There's a new page command as well, which is probably what we want here. Or as I said, there should be a column break command as well. But there we go. So a bunch of them puts it in there. Let's try it. It did render there as with our with the dimensions that we want, but you can get a little silly. You should be able to get fairly goofy with this. So I should say 28 by 58, and that should squash it down a little bit here. Now you're going to want to check with whoever's printing your poster to see what dimensions they have in terms of printing capabilities, because they're going to have a short list of what they want this to actually look like. And it doesn't matter right now, but as we transition from an HTML representation to a PDF representation, your specification here in terms of poster height and poster width, these are really, really important. So you want to make sure that these are actually operative. Unexpected. So it looks like our line breaks that we put in probably have kind of something here that is in there that shouldn't be in there. So that was just kind of sloppiness on my part. I'm not going to worry about it right now. The poster mostly looks like what we want it to look like. 36 by 48 is not, again, anything meaningful in the HTML representation, but it will be in the PDF representation. Now, there's a few different ways to get your PDF. If we look in our files folder, you can see that we only have an HTML represented here. We also have a packages bibliography that's been rendered. That probably came from a code script, from a code chunk. Let me see. We covered this a few weeks ago in terms of, there we go, right bib. So the bib is going to have knitr, R Markdown, Posterdown, Pagedown, and then any other packages that we included, which for our case will be Palmer Penguins and ggplot. So if I look in the packages.bib, you see them actually represented in here. So where's ggplot? Huh. It's not actually in there. It should be in there. Oh, I need a dot packages. I think that should work. I keep jumping around, so I'm in the wrong. We did three different. QMD or three different RMDs, and so I keep, for whatever reason, I keep kind of accidentally jumping around tabs here. So the dot packages included on this list here should actually look through our file, and it should recognize that we have ggplot2 as well as Palmer Penguins. So there it is. And now those will be represented as well in our references. So if we look at our references, they should be in here. Our poster down, page down. So it looks like it's probably being called out elsewhere. So we'd have to look for that. Interesting. Okay, that's something we could definitely play with. What I really want to do is I really want to focus on the Chrome print. So from page down, You can do this in the console. You can also include this in the scripting. You can include it in the YAML. So after we do it here in the console, I think we'll see if we can include it in the YAML and get that to work as well. I think it's Chrome print. Might be print Chrome. Oh, it is Chrome print. And then we should be able to put the name of our RMD. Now, what I expect to happen, well, what I expect to happen may not happen. What I hope is going to happen is that we're going to get from this simple command that we'll get a representation of our HTML document in PDF format simply through using this Chrome print command. And actually, before I run it, let me see if we can do that in the YAML, because that's probably the way that most people are going to want to do this. So let's go back to Grok. What's the YAML specification for Chrome print so I can get a PDF? And even though I'm very kind and complimentary of Grok, I'm not worried about grammar, so I'm not all that grammatically accurate with it, actually. It's just knit page down Chrome print. It looks like it's at, Grok is suggesting it at the first level here. And he's also saying that this self-contained is something that can be a little tricky as we are as we're playing with transitioning from HTML to PDF representations. Now this is a good sign. We're seeing a Markdown file generated here in our file space. I don't know if you saw that, but this basic.knit.md, that should be a temporary file that's used as kind of a transition from the from the HTML to a Markdown specification, and from the Markdown specification, it's creating a PDF. Now we have a PDF. That's awesome. Look at that. Look at that. This PDF is a great representation of what we have. Now, the if we blow it up, if we take a very microscopic look at it, you see that the rendering, the representations are fantastic. There's no blurring of this. There's no blurriness in terms of representation. This the resolution is fantastic. So you're going to have the best possible resolution for your printer here. The specifications of this are going to be defined by what we put in our YAML. I'm surprised that ran with this with that extra space in there. YAMLs are kind of notorious for not liking spaces. We could also, instead of including it in the YAML, we could just run that in the console, but this is probably best practice for just fully reproducible procedure. Okay, so sorry, I probably went a little longer than I should have tonight. We are going to have to do multiple weeks on this. If you would like to see more R Markdown options in addition to Posterdown, let me know. Otherwise, next week I might just go straight into Quarto. But if people want to see some other R Markdown or Posterdown or page down alternatives, please let me know and we can do that as well. Okay, I think that's probably enough for tonight. So thanks for bearing with me, everybody. If you're doing academic posters, I hope you consider executing them using one of these procedures that we're talking about. Posterdown is certainly an alternative. It's easily accessible. Those templates should render directly for you. If they don't, it's something about your local setup, and it should be able to, again, use AI to kind of help you get started with it. Use me, drop me a note, I can help as well. As I said, I go around at my conference and I say, hey, Posterdown, and people think I'm a freak. So I'd be more than happy to help you. All right, see you next week, everybody. Thanks for popping by.